Don't you hate wrestling with predictability? The garbage man, the sexy boy, boring ass TV? How did I get to work in here? Somebody tell me, please. The WWF is confusing to me. With Vince as mean as you've ever seen. I told old Patterson I'm done here in June. When a sudden voice inside me whispered, Vinny, don't sell your dream so soon. And everywhere I look, there's a Ted with a hand to hold on to. And everywhere I look, there's a place and a promotion who needs you. And it's there you'll book when you're lost out there and you're all alone. And WCW's waiting to carry you home. It's there you'll book. And it's there I'll book. A doobity-ba-ba-ba, headed to Atlanta and listen to this podcast. It's all right, even though it fucking makes fun of everything I've ever done. Backbone Wrestling Network. Welcome back to episode 41 of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? I'm Scott Shiflett. Joining me as always, you heard him sigh already. That's how he feels about this episode of Thunder. It's Logan Crossland. Logan, how are you doing, buddy?
This is, I feel like we go through every episode and I always toss out in our array of group chats that this is the worst episode we've watched so far, and I don't really feel that about this one. I do feel a certain way about some segments that we're going to go into, but I thought this one at least started well. I don't know that it necessarily finished well, but we'll get into the first match, but I actually quite enjoyed kind of how it went for the most part.
Yeah, Logan, it's very interesting. It seems like they have like the concepts of a plan for certain things, like with storylines, at least. I will say there's too much Russo and Bischoff all over the show. They don't have to be involved in every single storyline. But as we see, they're like placed everywhere within the show. But yeah, let's jump on in. It's May 10th, 2000. We're getting dangerously close to my birthday. I would have turned 11 that year. But Thunder starts off. We see highlights of DDP getting his ass beat through the whole episode, and then we see Ric Flair versus David Flair and Russo. We see Liz versus Daffney for some reason. Scott Steiner being beaten down by Tank Abbott and Rick, and then the monster truck, Goldberg monster truck, becoming a character like we discussed on the previous episode. Tony welcomes us in and says the war continues tonight. He says that DDP and Canyon are in the hospital. Hopefully they have side-by-side rooms. That Ric Flair may not come back as it seems like he's quit wrestling. We're in Springfield, Illinois tonight. We still have the same aisle that they've been using since Slamboree. I hope that continues. I really like it. But Chris Candido comes down with Tammy, and he gets on the mic and says he has one thing to say. Since Tammy has joined him in WCW, his Hard Knocks life has gotten better. Chris says you can look, but you can't touch. I guess that's where Nikki and Bree got their idea for their theme music.
You can look, but you can't touch.
Then Exactly. Logan, you can't see, just did the twirl. It was amazing. I wish Souza was here so we could get that in a GIF. Sadly, that's not the case. Tammy then gets on the mic and says she can be a real tease, but if you got it, you flaunt it, and then starts doing like the worst strip tease ever. As I've been to a couple strip clubs and I've seen some good strip teases. This was not a good strip tease from her.
This wasn't the grind by Sable for sure.
That's somehow worse. Like, she has no rhythm.
I agree. I agree.
Like, it's impressive, but yeah. So our first match tonight is Hard Knock Chris Candido versus Crowbar for the cruiserweight title. I don't know how Crowbar's a cruiserweight because he's significantly bigger. Let's be real, Chris Candido's probably not really a cruiserweight because they used to have a weight limit. So before Crowbar even gets in the ring, he punches Chris because Chris was near the aisleway, and then Crowbar chops Chris in the corner. Chris reverses an Irish whip and sends Crowbar into the corner. Chris charges Crowbar, but he eats a big boot. Crowbar then hit a blockbuster, which was pretty nice. I'm shocked he was able to do that. Chris gets up, gives a poke to the eye, then chops Crowbar, and he hits a nice DDT that gets 2. Crowbar ducks a clothesline and hits a Death Valley driver. Crowbar hits his somersault leg drop that I really like. Tammy then gets on the ring apron and distracts Crowbar, and this allows Chris to then backbody Crowbar over the top rope, which almost killed him. His head almost literally hit the hardest part of the ring, Logan. Chris actually hits a tope suicida on Crowbar. They didn't call it that, of course. Chris then picked up a chair, but Crowbar is able to hit a baseball slide because he got back in the ring that hits Chris with said chair. Crowbar hits a splash from the ring apron to the floor that looked pretty nice, very Cactus Jack-esque. Crowbar puts Chris in a chair and then hits a clothesline from the apron to Chris in the chair. This actually breaks the chair. Crowbar then gets in the ring, but then Chris is able to get on the side of the ring and suplex him from the ring to the aisleway. Then he throws Crowbar in the ring and wants for a suplex of his own, but Crowbar reverses it and hits a front suplex, which I don't really know what to call that, but it looked pretty sweet. That gets 2. Crowbar hits a drop kick that propels Chris in the corner that puts Chris on the top rope. Crowbar went for the Super Hurricane Rana, but Chris reversed it to a top rope powerbomb. Chris goes back up top like a moron because he probably should have pinned Crowbar, but Daffney then gets in the ring, hits Chris in the nuts, then hits a Franken Screamer from the top rope, as they called it. This then allows Tammy to attack Daffney, and we get a cat fight. Chris breaks it up, but Daffney hits Chris in the nuts. Crowbar then goes for a slam, but Chris reverses it and hits a sit-down tombstone. Chris goes up top and hits a diving headbutt, and it's over. So I guess Chris Candido's wearing a cup, Logan. This was a really fun match. A little bit, not really on hidden gem territory. I mean, it might be a hidden gem for what we've been, the slot we've been forced to watch. But a real fun match, despite, wrestlers playing dumb, waiting for women to get in spots. But no, I enjoyed it. Crowbar has a fun offense that, is sort of Canyon-esque with like an innovator of offense type deal.
Yeah, he does some kind of different stuff, I would say. Yeah, he has a pretty, Canyon's a good comp. He does some kind of, it's not just super wacky or super crazy or anything like that, but it's just kind of different from a lot of the guys on the roster at this point. So he's definitely a guy that is kind of under the radar, kind of underrated in the run so far. Yeah, probably not in the grand scheme of things a hidden gem, but for our run, I would say it's probably one of the better matches we've seen, especially in the last little while. I thought Candido hit a pretty cool DDT at the beginning of the match. I liked when Crowbar had kind of the succession of the Death Valley driver and like the slingshot leg drop that he hit. Probably would have finished the match, but obviously Tammy gets involved. You mentioned the, when Candido kind of dumps Crowbar to the outside, it was kind of a scary bump. And he kind of almost lands on his head on the floor. So that could have been a lot worse, obviously. I thought Candido eating the chair on the baseball slide was pretty sick, as well as the Crowbar. He kind of does the running, leaping clothesline from the apron while Candido's kind of sat in the chair. I thought that was cool. The suplex on the ramp was awesome. I'm sure you mentioned that as well. I thought the top rope powerbomb was really cool. So if I'm pointing out moves throughout the match. That usually means I enjoyed it pretty well, because that usually means a couple of spots really, caught my attention and stuff like that. But obviously the ladies get involved, and Candido is able to eventually get the win. He does a greeting from Asbury Park, the sit out pile driver, as a kind of an homage to his old triple threat teammate Bam Bam Bigelow. So I thought that was pretty cool.
My bad. I called that a sitting tombstone. So thank you.
He probably doesn't call that, but I just knew that I knew that them two were in triple threat with each other in ECW. So it's probably a little bit of a wink, wink.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. Also, I'm horrible with moves, as we've learned on the show. And then we head to the announce desk. Tony says we don't know what to expect tonight. Sounds about par for the course. And then he hypes up an interview with Vampiro and footage of how Russo won over David Flair, which I guess I'm losing my mind, Logan. I kind of enjoyed that Russo winning over David Flair stuff in New York, which we'll talk about as the show goes on. We're also told that Russo has booked Elizabeth versus Rhonda Singh. We hadn't seen her since that person was attacking people and lights went out when Powers of B back in December. We're told that Bischoff has booked Horace versus Kidman tonight, and if Horace loses, he's fired. And for some reason, we have a main event that is Sting versus Mike Awesome in an ambulance match. My little side note here says, "What are we doing?"
Fucking
I know they're trying to like hype up Awesome as the career killer, but I think they could have just had it a different way. But we go backstage and we see that Terry Funk is standing in front of Eric, Bischoff, the Cat, and Kimberly. Eric says we can do this the hard way or the easy way, and he says I've seen beyond the mat. You shouldn't be walking. Eric says give me the belt because he's still the hardcore champion. Terry says we'll have to cripple him to get the belt. Eric says name your price. To be honest, Logan, the way Kimberly was looking tonight, my price would have been Kimberly.
I'll take that broad sitting next to you.
I'll take that. But he says you could take your money and shove it up your ass and walks off. Eric tells the Cat to go get Harlem Heat. Cat says Heat are having problems themselves. Eric says we can fix that, and Cat walks off because, as you guys might remember, Harlem Heat looked like they were broken up on Monday when Stevie Ray hit Big T with the slapjack, the actual weapon, not his finishing move. We then see Tank Abbott and Rick Steiner walking into the building, and then we see Goldberg's monster truck just like stalking them because
lurking.
Somehow Goldberg's fucking monster truck's a character now, guys. I guess is as good as mine, gang. But just insane stuff there, Logan. Like they'd sort of been like having like Terry Funk be on the back burner if like the new blood wanting the title. That seems to be reignited tonight, as we'll see throughout the night. But what do you think of that stuff so far? And would you have chosen Kimberly as the price?
I mean, I probably would have, but Terry Funk being the crazy old man that he is, I think he wants as much violence in his life as he can get. So he is going to relish in what happens for him tonight. He obviously has this match that is kind of set up in these segments with him versus all of Harlem Heat, and he will get into some more mess and debauchery throughout the rest of the night. So he's a crazy old man, and he wants some violence for sure. But the Goldberg monster truck just kind of lurking like a stalker in the background as Steiner and Abbott kind of, you can put aside disbelief in wrestling a lot, but I'm pretty sure they would have seen a giant monster truck, even if it was like a little bit down the street when they got out of their car. Like, I think they would have noticed that, but we'll suspend disbelief, I guess. But we'll see how that goes for them the rest of the
night. They're treating Goldberg's fucking monster truck like he's Jason Voorhees, Logan.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, why aren't they giving more shit for making the fucking monster truck a goddamn character? It's probably because all the other insane, wacky shit that they do, it's like lost to time. Luckily, we found it, Logan.
That's true.
So anyway, we go to commercial break. We come back and we see Russo taking Crowbar, Daffney, and David Flair around New York. Russo, they see like a a nudie theater, and like David's like, let's go in, and like they're like, we can watch Ready to Rumble, which shows how stupid Crowbar and David are. But Russo says Daffney to go play in traffic, and she goes off, and then they go in and out. Then they go in the movie theater and come out, and in front it has and David says he's never seen a naked woman before, despite being with Daffney since December. Keep in mind all the stuff what I'm going to say. It's very important later. So like, you know, it's the like acting like Logan's first time when he came out of a titty bar when we took him, quote unquote. When they walk out, they're just real happy and everything, and have like, you know, but it's just like, yeah, it's just dumb that David says he's never seen a naked woman before, with what he says later, and how he's been with Daffney since December at the very least. But Harlem Heat, this wasn't the one I liked. The one I liked is coming up, but Harlem Heat's music hits. Out comes Big Cash, Big T, and Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray gets on the mic and says, Terry Funk, he's too stupid to realize to give up the title. Says they're ready to hurt someone. Tony says that Harlem Heat has fixed their problems. Out comes Terry Funk. And second match tonight is Terry Funk versus Harlem Heat 2000, a hardcore match. His versus all three. Terry Funk has 2 frozen chickens on his hands and starts punching Harlem Heat with the chickens and takes him out for a little bit. And then it's just insane. I mean, it makes sense. It's frozen, so like I guess it would hurt. Then the numbers take. I'm sure it was cold as shit for him, Logan. Like, you know, when you touch 2 cold things, I'm sure like his whole back was like seizing up. That's what I was thinking of. Like, damn, that's terrible.
He's so calloused at this point. I'm sure he didn't even feel it.
Yeah, you're right. So he's able to get the early advantage, where the numbers take over and they start beating down Funk. And then like in the most athletic thing we've seen Ahmed Johnson, Big T, do, he did a running dive from the aisle into the ring and took out Terry Funk. So that man is pretty immovable in the year of our Lord 2000. See him do that was impressive.
Most bulbous that he will be, that we'll see him on screen, I'm sure, at this point. He's very, very thick, for sure.
I don't think he has long for this world, Logan.
I don't think
as we'll get through this match. Yes, but every time like Harlem Heat was holding up Terry Funk, I thought they were going to turn on each other. That doesn't happen for a little bit. Big T's holding up Funk, and Stevie Ray hits a top rope clothesline on Funk. It's just a beatdown. They hit a double like Alabama slam on Funk. But then they start going for the pin. But Big T breaks out the pin on Funk, so they do more damage. Then Big T is about to hit Funk with a trash can. Then he just hits Stevie Ray with it. He pushes down Cash, and then Stevie Ray and Big T fight in the aisleway. Terry Funk then hits Cash with a chair and gets the W. And then we see Big T and Stevie Ray are still fighting. Eric and the Cat are upset. This is a real nothing match, Logan. Nothing of nothing match. And they just redid an angle that they did 2 days before.
Yeah, I was just about to say that this is a big Russo booking crutch that he does quite a bit. I feel like we've seen it quite a few times throughout our run so far, and probably will going forward. He's a big fan of doing like the outmatched singles guy, or like, you know, like a 4-on-2 tag match or something like that. He's a big fan of doing that, but they turn on they kind of inexplicably turn on each other throughout the match. So obviously they're beating the shit out of Funk. Could easily beat him, because easily, you know, one of them could be the hardcore champion. But they kind of each want to get the pin. So like, you know, Cash goes for the pin. Stevie tells him to get off. He goes for one. Big T kind of pulls him off, says, I want to be the champion, you know, blah, blah, blah. But Russo is a big fan of doing this. In these kind of matches. So obviously it's a 3-on-1, and they should easily beat an old man and Funk. But obviously it comes to the point where the team starts infighting and all that kind of stuff. They start like you said, Big T and Stevie kind of start battling to the outside. And then Funk absolutely crowns Cash with the chair, just absolutely blitzes him with it. And obviously retains. So yeah, pretty nothing. I'm gonna assume that this is the death of Harlem Heat 2000, and probably maybe the last time we'll see Big T and maybe Cash going forward. So I'm sure Stevie will hang around just because of Booker, obviously, but I imagine this is the last time we'll see Big T.
I hope it. I think it's probably the last time we see Cash.
Yeah, I mean, and Cash too. Yeah.
Yes. So see ya.
Bye.
Later, Big T. Can't say I really enjoyed you. Adios, Harlem Heat 2000. Sorry, Clarence Mason or Jay Biggs. You're probably gone as well. So we take a commercial break. We come back, and this is a weird, Logan. Like, you saw me just literally wince. Tenay is sitting down with the Vampiro, and Vampiro's like dressed in like black leather pants and like a black poofy shirt, like he's trying to fucking be an extra for Interview with a Vampire. And he has his makeup on. Tenay says this was supposed to be an out of character interview. Vampiro says he is the character, and he basically says that he's ugly and that's why he uses face paint, which is like hell of a self fucking burn.
I mean, from what we've seen in Lucha Underground,
not wrong. He looks like a fucking Fester in Lucha Underground, guys. Then in the last season, he inexplicably has hair and actually is a better look for him.
Mm-hmm. Went to Turkey, got the hair plugs.
But 1,000%. He was the first one to do it. But Vampiro says Sting is babied and pampered, and then he like rambles a lot in this fucking interview. So I only just was able to get some of this stuff. But he says he likes mixing rock and roll and wrestling. And then after he says that, then he goes back to shitting on Sting for actually having a schedule. And it's like, what the fuck? And then he says that he has kidnapped Steve Borden, a.k.a. Sting's Crow. Weird. Then he talks about Ozzy Osbourne biting the head off the dove. Vampiro says he's going to recreate it now and threatens to bite the crow. And Vampiro says it's all about rock and roll. And Sting then attacks Vampiro. And he drops like a lighting rig on him. And he says he's tired of Vampiro's pity party. Vampiro laughs at Sting beats him. Sting says, "Come on, Ian." And that's the end of the show. Not the end of the show, the end of the segment. My apologies. I wish it was the end of the show after seeing that, because that was just dumb, Logan.
Yeah, kind of eerie, creepy, stupid at the same time. Yeah, just Vampiro is not one of those that kind of connects with me in any way. He's just kind of, like I said, he's just kind of weird and not in an interesting way. And he kind of just speaks in riddles and kind of rambles a lot in these promo times that he does get. So this was definitely a weird, strange segment. And of course it ends with Sting beating his absolute ass, as per usual. So he gets interview time and still doesn't get over somehow.
Well, like, he's talking like a fucking goof the whole time. Like, he's just being weird for weird's sake. I just did not like it.
Yeah, like I said, he basically like speaks in riddles and like just kind of just rambles and stuff, and it's not anything that's interesting that's being said. So,
speaking of interesting things that weren't being said, Logan, next up we have Sean, the Perfect One Stasiak versus Lash LaRue. We see highlights of Monday of Henning helping Sean. Lash gets on the mic and says he's been called from Raging Cajun to the Ayatollah Shrimp Crayola. I don't think no one's ever called him that, but he says his new name is Corporal Cajun. Kurt Hennig comes down wearing a WCW security shirt, and he gets on commentary. The match starts, and Sean kicks and sends Cajun to the ropes, but Cajun's able to get a roll up and gets 2. Kurt says he didn't help Sean on Monday, which is like bullshit. He did. Sean slams Cajun and then stomps him. Kurt says he's the one that got all of MIA reinstated, says he has some stroke around here. Okay. And then like Sean pins Cajun and gets 2. Sean throws Cajun out of the ring. They fight along the table. Sean throws the announce table. Sean throws Cajun back to the ring. It's a top rope clothesline. This gets 2 as well. Cajun gets a kick and then goes up top and hits a nice missile drop kick. Cajun punches Sean, hits a back body drop. And then Cajun gets punches, and then Sean ducks a punch, and Cajun and throws Sean outside the ring. Kurt says, "Wait a second," and then he throws Cajun on the table and then starts beating him down and throws him back in the ring. This allows Sean to hit the penning plex, and it's over. MIA runs down, and Kurt leads to the crowd. So, like, as you just said earlier, Logan, it's like a swerve for a swerve's sake. Like, with these guys, like, you have, like, Kurt Hennig and Sean Stasiak literally just fought at the pay-per-view, and now, like, they're a team now, and somehow MIA got reinstated. Like, none of this makes sense at all. Kurt reinstates MIA, but like then makes them lose. Like, it's asinine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a good thing to kind of have these guys get into a group, have something for them to do, because they are kind of probably some underappreciated guys, maybe Van Hammer aside, but obviously a group of guys that could be used in a way that would help them out and kind of maybe rise them a tad up the card in some situations. I don't know that Lash or Chavo is going to go too much further, but if Hugh is booked correctly, maybe he could be something. And obviously we'll get some more members as we go. But this match was fine. It was pretty even. I would say it's kind of one of the, I feel like Stasiak kind of has a formula in these matches as well. Um, he kind of dominates the first portion and then he kind of gives in the second half. I guess this is a pretty basic match formula, but um, he seems to do that in pretty much all of his matches. He really dominates early, and obviously gives kind of towards the middle of the match, and then he kind of sneaks one out at the end. I thought the gut wrench suplex that Stasiak hit, it was more of a gut wrench slam, but I thought that looked really good. He really got him up and really tossed him to the mat. Like I said, it was a pretty even match. All leads to obviously Hennig helping him once again get the win, or kind of the distraction long enough for him to hit the Hennig Plex and win the match. So. But yeah, MIA something that could be interesting going forward. I don't know that Hennig and Stasiak as a team or any kind of alliance really blows my socks off. Hennig's one of those guys that could disappear, and I wouldn't particularly be too sad about it. And Stasiak's not one of the newer guys that I'm too particularly super excited about. So um, whether they team or whether they're just kind of buddies and kind of help each other out. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think they're going to accomplish too much, but we'll see. Obviously, anything can happen, but I'm not too excited about this pairing.
Yeah, they seem like they've had like the stupid booking with Henning, and it goes back to when like he was with Buff when they were doing like he was like the hired mercenary like for
The
powers that be, and it's like they're reverting back to that, and it just makes no sense at all because like we saw Henning get turned on the first night when they rebooted everything, and then it's like he's been like a Millionaire Club adjacent, and now it's like, oh, now he's back with Sean Stasiak because we can't call him Mr. Perfect, but like they're like he took your gimmick, Kurt, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? And Kurt's like then blames the announcers when he beats up Corporal Cajun. It's like, I doubt this goes anywhere. I'm pretty sure Kurt's released too soon. So like we'll have to monitor it.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that could disappear and not going to do too much to the overall programming, I would say. But yeah, he's not really building his legacy at this point. I'll say I think he's more hurting himself by kind of existing at this point. So yeah, if he goes away, that's not the worst news.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, Logan. This is like this is bad. Like like his legacy is hurt by coming to WCW. Like outside maybe the first stuff that he does with like Flair and everything, he's pretty much completely fucking useless until then. Like they have him in the Wolfpack, and then he turns on Conan at Bash at the Beat, Great American Bash 99 or 98. And yeah, 98. And then it's just okay, what are we doing type shit.
Yeah, I feel like he has kind of the initial surge when he comes in, and then he just kind of after that just kind of dive bombs and is pretty useless for the most part for the rest of his run.
Yeah, completely forgettable. Also completely forgettable. Liz somehow still here. We go backstage. Russo says the score is Liz 3, Russo 0. He says that he underestimated her and says that this is a fight she can't win. Says tonight it's Liz versus Ronda Singh, despite us already knowing about it. And he says if Liz wins, she's free. If she can beat that 300-pound bison, a lot of fat shaming going on here. Russo says he altered
Nice.
her outfit as she looked like she was a extra from Misfits in Action, and she calls him a pig. We got a commercial break. We go back to Liv Russo and David Flair and them being in New York, and Daffney sees a fake Statue of Liberty and thinks it's a real one. Crowbar says the real one is in the water. Russo says that every day they put it in a new location, which I don't know, Logan. For some reason, that popped me. Like, I got a nice chuckle out of that because, like, these people are morons. And Russo's like, we put it in a new situation, new location every day, so we can, so everyone can see it. I don't do the Russo voice that well. That's JT Rosero for everyone. But yeah, just a little segment that enjoyed. Leads us to match 4, which is Ronda Singh versus Liz. Liz has cutoff fatigues now, shorts on, R&B security escort her out. We see highlights on Monday of how Medusa beat down Liz, and then Liz used the chair on Medusa. The match starts, and they just circle each other. Ronda grabs Liz and throws her into the corner. Liz kicks Ronda, but it has no damage. Ronda then hits like the safest splash in the corner and like basically boxes Liz into the corner with her weight. Luger comes down and tries to talk Ronda out of this. He stands between Liz and Ronda. Ronda then ducks under Lex as he tried to clothesline as she ran at him, and Liz kicks Ronda. Lex then puts Ronda in the torture rack, which the ref calls for a DQ. All right. Lex and Liz hug. Russo and Chuck Palumbo comes down. Russo gives Chuck a bat, and when Lex turns around, Chuck hits him with the bat, but Lex was still holding Liz, so Liz took the brunt of the bat damage right there. And then while Lex is like, obviously he falls down, Liz got hit with the bat, and then Chuck beats down Lex with the bat. Chuck's still being pretty shitty as just a clone of Lex, but gets pretty good heat on him if this is a way of what right now Liz Logan with her getting hit with this bat, which I can see that happening. So I have to see if she makes a return as well. But another nothing match, man. Like, stop putting Liz in matches.
Yeah, Ronda basically just sits on her in the corner at some point. It's supposed to be like she's squishing her, but Liz, obviously not being a wrestler, doesn't particularly know how to sell that situation. She kind of tries to make some, noises and some facials and stuff like that, but it doesn't really work out that well. Obviously, Lex comes out pretty quickly. Ends up racking Ronda, like you said. So I didn't even see the ref call for the bell. I appreciate that you noticed that, but I thought the match just kind of ended. I thought the referee just kind of bailed. The bat shot was pretty brutal to Liz. Palumbo really laid it in, and obviously he lays out Lex. Continuing, like, a lot of our complaint is with these new blood guys is they're not really getting over on these, legends, millionaires clubs kind of guys. So I would say Palumbo's gotten a pretty good shake so far, and he's gotten over on Lex pretty well to this point. So I'll at least give them that with him.
Yeah, like, it's interesting, but like they need to stop him doing like the Lex, which we'll get to later, because like, as we said on the last episode, Chuck's body looks great, but it's not as good as Lex's, which is insane to say. But yeah, but like, yeah, if that's the way to write Liz off, that's a hell of a way to get her off. We take a commercial break, and then they say during the commercial break, they show us that Chuck then picked up Liz and walked off. Out comes Daffney, and Daphne's holding the NWA title in big gold that Rick had brought with him on Monday. Russo and David Flair. Russo says, I know you're excited to see me, but he says he'd like a moment of silence for Ric Flair. He says on Monday we saw Flair leave with his tail tucked between his legs, and he says he's done with the business. Russo says he broke Ric Flair. Russo says that now WCW, that now he has quit WCW, he won't let Rick down that easily. He says we don't know about Ric Flair the father, or should we say Ric Flair the monster. Says he tortured David Flair for 20 plus years. Russo says David has a new dad now. Russo tells David to tell the real story of the Nature Boy. David says Rick was never there for him. He asked Rick where he was on his first day of school, when he had prom or any of his baseball games. Says he wasn't there. When he starts talking about how he has a long-legged blonde, for you guys that don't know, Daffney is short and has black hair. And David also said 20 minutes ago he had never seen a naked woman before. And then he's talking about this tall, long-legged blonde that he has, that he'll never have, that Ric Flair will never have. obviously, for you guys that don't know, which I'm shocked if you don't know, David Flair was fucking Stacy Keibler. Hats off to the man. Like, don't know how he pulled it, but good job, buddy. But, that's not in storyline. It's just asinine for this right here. But what can you get? David says he doesn't have time for Ric Flair now. Russo says this goes beyond Ric Flair, and Russo says another piece of trash and calls Arn a piece of crap. I'm surprised he didn't say shit, Logan. He loves to say it all the time. But Arn is called out, and he comes out in this Horseman music. He comes down and says, "That's what you after all is what you've done is all. You can't say you can say I'm mad at you, Dad." Arn says he never knew his mom or his dad, and Russo says, and he says that Russo's a groupie with power, which is amazing. And that Russo uses the new blood because he can control them. Arn says he tells you what he wants, what you want to hear. Arn says Ric Flair was having anxiety attacks about not being there. I highly doubt that. He's probably raw dog and strange. Arn says he did all the work for the fans and says all their siblings suffered. He even name drops a certain Ashley. We'll hear more about her in about 20 years. Arn says David never had any problems because of what Rick did, how he had a new car and paid for his school. Arn is just amazing here. Russo cuts him off and says that Arn is full of horse crap. Russo says, I heard you say weeks ago that Arn had one more good fight in him. I think he said that back in January, Logan, but, whatever. Russo says tonight it'll be Arn versus David Flair. Arn says he ain't the enforcer anymore, but David isn't his old man. Pretty good segment, mostly carried by Arn, because that man can still fucking talk like no other.
Yeah, I think standards and practices got in Russo's ear on this one, and told him to say crap over and over again instead of shit, because he really wanted to say shit, whether he might have been told not to or something like that. But yeah, this segment definitely got a lot better when Arn got involved. He obviously calls David out on his shit, and obviously Russo out on his as well. Definitely wasn't expecting to see an Arn Anderson versus David Flair match on any television that we were going to watch for this project. But here we go. Definitely cool to see Arn in the ring, even if it's in the short capacity that we'll see later. But definitely a segment made a lot better by the fact that Arn Anderson existed within it.
Yeah, Arn just adds like realness to it, which is weird because of how kooky and loony this Russo is, but with his booking, but like it felt real. Like Arn, like I could probably hear Arn fucking read the phone book if I'm being honest. But just very good. Like you said, I didn't see us having an Arn match. This man showed up more than I thought with the Old Age Outlaws in January and now this. But yeah, then we see Chuck talking to Kat, Eric, and Kim backstage. We don't hear what they're saying. Then Hogan shows up in a Dodge Charger. We get a commercial break. We see that Eric is once again asking Funk for the hardcore title. Funk says, if you want the belt, you have to try to take it from me. Eric says, you got a surprise tonight, one more match. And then out comes Chuck Palumbo to Lex's music. Chuck does the whole Lex pose down, which I was talking about before, which his body looks great, but he shouldn't be doing this. It's called the Main Event Chuck Palumbo, which is a pretty good name. Terry's Funk music hits, and this leads us to match 5, which is Chuck versus Terry in a hardcore match for the title. Chuck grabs a chair and charges at Terry on the aisleway, but Terry tackles Chuck. Chuck's able to get up first. He starts beating down Terry with the chair, and then he clotheslines Terry in the ring from the aisleway. Chuck pulls out a table and puts it in the ring, and he puts it against one of the turnbuckles. He then throws Terry through the table. Funk rolls out of the ring, and Chuck hits him with the axe handle, and Terry finally starts fighting back. Start fighting in the crowd. While this is happening, Tony tells us that next is Horace versus Kidman, and if Hogan interferes for the match, Horace is fired, and if Horace loses, he's fired. So obviously I'm like, well, Hogan's going to interfere during the match, of course. But while that's happening, they battle backstage, and they hit each other with trash cans and brooms, and they battle outside. And then Chuck was about to slam Funk over a parking garage, but Lex appears and he attacks Chuck. And then Lex then beats down Chuck and throws him into a dumpster. Funk then pins Chuck and Funk wins. Luger after the match is attacking Chuck and asking where Liz is. R&B security then come attack Lex and they actually mace him. They handcuff Lex and Chuck slaps him around and throws him into the garage door. I wouldn't have had Chuck lose if you're having doing this with Lex, but the way he lost is kind of a fluke because he was dominating Terry the whole time. But I would have sent Cat out there and just had like Chuck be beating down him, then him and Luger pair off instead of like, what the fuck is Cat doing? He's done nothing tonight, Logan.
Yeah, he seems to be pretty highly involved with Bischoff and does pretty much nothing but like run errands for him, basically, but does nothing physical. But yeah, Palumbo taking the loss probably not the smartest thing. Like you said, it is kind of fluky, so you can kind of get away with it, I guess. But just have Luger come out and then kind of battle away, and Funk just kind of disappear, and the match just kind of end without much of a result or anything like that. That probably would have been the smarter play. But yeah, they battle all around the arena, all the way outside. Yeah, Palumbo was basically about to murder him before Lex came in and saved. So. Yeah, obviously, again, Palumbo ends up on top in the kind of battle with Luger. So obviously, it took a little bit of help this time, but at least they're kind of seeming to go with a guy and kind of put him over the older guard in this situation. Obviously, Lex got a little bit over on him, but obviously, Palumbo got his heat back towards the end of the segment. So that is good to see if we're still doing the whole New Blood thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's sorted. We're starting to see shades of gray because Chronic were New Blood, but now they're the Millionaires Club, as we'll see later. Then we have like Rick Steiner working with the New Blood. It's just weird. They should have, started off great, Logan, and we can't. There it is.
The idea is there, but the execution just was never going to work.
Now, if they did the New Blood with the people they lost in fucking January, you might be on to something.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're having to do it with picked over people, there you go. But
you just got to present them the right way. I mean, I'm not saying any of those guys particularly gotten super over and would have been like huge main event stars or anything like that, especially like Kidman. Kidman's at the end of the day a smaller guy. He's not all of that charismatic in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, he's charismatic enough to get Torrie Wilson somehow. So, but he's not just he doesn't just explode off the screen with charisma. But I think an awesome if you had kind of kept him, if he could have just wrestled and done his style in the ring. And gotten over somebody along the way. He's been presented a little bit better than some of the other guys, but I'm just saying if you pair him with like the right manager or the right mouthpiece or something like that, he could have been a huge star for you because obviously he had some cred from ECW and obviously some of the stuff he did in Japan as well. So they just like that they had some of the guys that they could have made. And they just don't present it well.
Not at all, Logan. Not at all. Like it's just like okay, here we go. But we see Horace and Hulk walking backstage, guys. This is about to be something you have to fucking see to believe. We get a commercial break. We see Kevin Nash getting out of a limo, and then in the background we see Norman and Ralphus holding up a sign that says "We'll wrestle for food" because they were fired on Monday when they lost to Terry Funk. Filthy Animals music hits, and out comes the Filthy Animals and Eric Bischoff. Filthy Animals, of course, are Kidman and Torrie, Conan, Juventud, and Rey Mysterio. Eric gets on the mic and says, "You people know how much I love you," and he says, "They forced us into this." Talking about the Hogans. Eric assures everyone that Billy is the future of sports entertainment, and that if Hulk Hogan steps foot in the ring, Horace will be fired. Eric says, Horace, come on out and dance with the future. Match 6, guys. Horace Hogan versus Kidman. And if Horace loses, then he's fired. Horace rushes the ring and attacks Kidman. Kidman gets some punches, but that's doused quickly as Horace hits a choke slam. And then he clotheslines Kidman. Horace kicks Kidman with a big boot and hits a running clothesline. This 3 times. Kidman then goes and hits the ref and tries to DQ the match, but Eric gets on the mic and says there's been a rule change. This is now a no DQ match. Horace attacks Kidman and beats him with the chair. Kidman's able to get some offense as he drop kicked the chair into Horace's face, but he's on the outside knocked out. Eric gets on the mic and says this is now a false count anywhere match, and Kidman pins Horace, but he kicks out at 2. Kidman throws Horace in the ring and hits a guillotine leg drop from the outside. He does the Hogan's poses, but then Horace is able to gets up and hits a big boot. Eric gets on the mic again and says this is a handicap match. Then the Filthy Animals swarm the ring. Horace is able to take him down because I guess he's related to Hulk Hogan. He has that superpower, Logan, just being able to beat these fuckers down. But then Conan hits a Rolling Thunder, and the Filthy Animals take advantage. Hoovy does the People's Elbow. They stay beating him down. Rey Mysterio does a Bronco Buster in the corner. Kidman then hits a top rope elbow, but Horace then kicks out at 2. And then Filthy Animals just leave the ring and sit on the outside. And Horace hits a Death Valley driver and gets 3. And it's like, Billy's just getting fucking buried here. Eric gets on the mic once again and says this is a Texas death match. Kidman has the 10 count to get up. Filthy Animal's not even fucking helping him. Kidman is up at 9. Horace continues to beat down Eric. Horace beats down Kidman. Eric then gets in the ring and hits Horace with a steel chair. This causes them to go down. Filthy Animals get back in the ring and start beating down Horace again. Eric makes an I Quit match, and he lays on the mat and tells Horace to, like, I can stop this now. You just have to work for the new blood. Horace then spits in Eric's face. Eric then tells the Filthy Animals to pin Horace, and they do. So I guess Horace is fired after the match. Hogan then runs down and beats down all the Filthy Animals. This is so embarrassing. They just like run up to him like it's a fucking Steven Seagal fight one at a time. Eric then hides outside the ring behind Tori, who looks great, by the way. And then he gets in the ring. Then he hits Hulk with the chair. Hulk no-sells, and Eric runs away. Hogan goes after him. The Filthy Animals then like, oh, well, I guess we can beat down this Hogan. So they go back to beating down Horace. Wolfpack music comes down, and I was like, oh my God, they're about to get fucking squashed again, Logan. Kevin Nash comes down with the bat, and they all bail. This is where I'm going to stop so I can get a water break. But way to make not only Billy Kidman, who's supposed to be feuding with Hulk Hogan, look like a joke where he can't even beat his fucking stupid-ass cousin, but you make the Filthy Animals look like fucking jobbers to the stars here. This is just embarrassing. Like, it's angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if Kidman ever stood a shot, this was the absolute death of him ever being taken seriously. You obviously just brought back the rest of the Filthy Animals to kind of pair with him to give him some advantage, or I won't say muscle, because none of those guys are particularly all that big other than maybe Conan, but he's not the most imposing figure, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. But Bischoff just continuously gets involved in this segment. He changes the rules of the match. It still never really gives the advantage to Kidman. Obviously, it's like kind of handicap rules throughout a little bit too. But Horace gets multiple visual pins. He gets a literal pin at one point before he makes it a Texas death match. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he took kind of multiple pinfalls, it took all of the animals to pin Horace, even though Bischoff had just made it an I Quit match. So I don't know how there was a pinfall in an I Quit match, but that's another thing for another day. But obviously they all pin him. So yeah, Horace is basically fired. Hulk comes out, and like you said, he just completely dominates all the Filthy Animals. He does that thing again where he just absolutely hurls Kidman out of the ring, just flings him full force, completely just flies through the air over the rope onto the ramp. You don't see him land on the ramp, but you just see him kind of disappear off the screen. It was a pretty comical bump. I would like to have a GIF of that maybe going forward. I thought it was a really ridiculous bump that Kidman took there. I'm sure he felt that one for the next couple of days, but yeah, then Nash obviously starts to come out, and obviously we're gonna see. We will see if he continues to beat them down or not. But I'll let you pick up from there.
Logan. So then Russo's music hits, and he comes out, and he gets on the mic and says, "Kevin is alone at last." And he says, "You know, Big Kev, I got my balls. I'm standing right here." Russo asks how many brain cells he's burned, talking about how he was Vinny Vegas, Oz, and Big Daddy Cool. Russo says he's the one that gave him the cool. Russo says he will make Nash cool again. And Logan, this is something that had been talked about before. I read about it, but seeing it in live action still made it so funny. The blood drops from the ceiling and misses Nash. It fell to his left. It literally like hit the ring. Some of it got on Nash, not much. Like he had to lean into it. Fucking
yeah, he gets like a little bit on his hair, but it's supposed to like drench him and like no.
It's supposed to fall on him and take him out. Like, but it's just like nope. It just misses him completely. Everyone's just like fucking shocked. Like, what the hell's going on? I just have embarrassing here. Russo leaves. Nash leaves the ring and starts stalking the filthy animals in Russo because, you know, he's Michael Myers if Goldberg's truck is chasing Voorhees. We get a commercial break. We see Russo and Eric both leaving the building, and they get in the limo that Nash got in. Hulk and Nash then smash limo with baseball bats. Then we go back to the arena. So, Logan, we finally saw it where the new blood missed Nash.
Yeah, obviously a super famous spot. You know, that's one of those wrestle crap things that you see all the time. But yeah, just, you know, he's standing here and the blood obviously splatters like a few feet to his left and goes everywhere. Like I said, he kind of has to like fling his hair out to the side just so he gets a little bit on him. But yeah, obviously, again, very famous kind of gift that has gone around, obviously. But yeah, just embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing to let that happen. I don't even know, like, I don't know the mechanism with which they did this splatter, I'll say, but for it to be that offline, I can't even imagine how something like that happens, but absolutely embarrassing for the company, and it just makes them all look foolish.
And it got on some people in the front row, so the people that actually paid for the fucking stuff get stuck with this liquid.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the rest of the night, wrestlers slip when they're walking around the back, like the side of the ring.
Side of the ring, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
So we go back to the arena. The Horseman music hits. We got match 7, which is Arn versus David Flair. Match starts with a collar and elbow tie-up. Arn schools David and pushes him away again. Arn then gets a headlock on David, and but David goes for a hip toss, but Arn just takes him down with like an amateur wrestler move. David punches Arn, then Arn gets him with a knee. Tenay then says that Russo and Bischoff got away. David tries to Ric Flair chop Arn, and Arn just takes it. But then Arn grabs David and starts punching him. Crowbar runs down and eats a fucking beautiful spine buster, Logan. Just a thing of beauty.
Classic.
Yeah, just awesome. Not as good as that WrestleMania one where it came out of literally nowhere, but still very good. Daffney then tries to attack Arn, but it was just a distraction for David to hit Arn with the Statue of Liberty statue, and he puts on the figure 4. Crowbar throws the ref out of the ring, and Crowbar counts the pin. Arn is down. He's bleeding. So that's the end of that match. It was a match, Logan. It was a match. Weird that this was Arn's last match, but it was pretty fun. Thankfully, it did not go that long, so I was fine with it.
Yes, sadly, probably one of David's best matches so far. I don't know. I don't know what that really says about him, but probably one of his better contests that he's been involved with so far. Like you said, big spot of the match is the big spine buster that he hits on Crowbar, and then obviously he smashes the Statue of Liberty figure kind of over Arn's head. He got him hard way too. He starts bleeding out of like the bald spot on the top of his head. Pretty big gusher there. But yeah, probably more entertaining than it should have been. But again, with Arn involved, you're never going to get a bad segment, I would say. So he's just one of a kind, one of the best to ever do it. So yeah, probably better than it should have been, but still kind of just nothing at the same time.
Yeah, just I want David Flair out of the ring forever. But
I want him out of my life.
I don't think, sadly, that's the case.
Yeah.
We come back from commercial break. We're in New York once again, and we see David Flair looking at this big ass Teletubby. Russo says he will buy him a Teletubby. And we see David Flair fighting a kid with a lightsaber, and then he gets mad because the kid wins, so he grabs a crowbar and starts going after him. And Russo says, "You can't do that." He has a rap sheet the size of War and Peace, which I thought was very good. Just a dumb segment. It's hilarious.
These were pretty good. I'll say in the grand scheme of things. As dumb as they were, I think they were pretty entertaining for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's so dumb, but yeah, that's all I need. If they just had David Flair doing that, that's all I need. Not him trying to wrestle. We see highlights of David beating down Arn, like we said, and then Rick Steiner comes out. We see what happened on Monday with Tank, Abbott, and Rick Steiner beating down Scott, and then with Goldberg's monster truck running over the car. Rick's on the mic and says there are two things that mean nothing to the wrestling world anymore, and that's who's next and Goldberg. Rick says, "I'm the man I'm about to bring out isn't Flash, and he ain't pretty, but he will knock you out." Rick says that man will knock Goldberg out. Goldberg's music hits and Take Abbott's Goldberg entrance starts. He comes out with sparklers this time. I thought was pretty funny. Ricklin says, "Last night, Scotty, what I did was stopping you from getting fired." Rick says that Scott had it coming. Rick brought up that when Scott turned on him a year ago, it was actually 2 years ago. Rick says now we are even, which I thought nice little continuity for once, Logan. But then Tank says he will run Goldberg's ass over and says, "When will you come out of hiding?" Tank says he will give Goldberg a whooping like his mom did when he was a youngin'. Out comes the Chronic with the tag titles. I have in parentheses, they are not the tag champs. Brian Clark says, "We are impressed with your shooting backgrounds, but tired of you shooting your mouth." Rick then gets in, "If you want some, come get some. If you don't like me, bite me." Brings Chronic down. All four start fighting. Shane and Buff come in and they all fight. It's 4-on-2. But then Shane and Buff stole the belts while this happens. The R&B security comes down. And then we see that Scott Steiner has come down. He starts beating up R&B security. He goes through all of them. Then Scott gets in the ring, but Tank and Ricklin leave. Then R&B security get in the ring, and Scott and Chronic beat R&B security up. Scott kills a guy with a middle rope belly to belly, which just looks amazing. And then we see on Turner Vision that Goldberg's truck runs over Rick and Tank's car. This makes 0 sense. Just a crazy ass angle. Yeah, we got to see Scott Steiner at least, Logan. So I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, getting to see him fuck up security guards and obviously Chronic as well is always fun. The monster truck running over the rental car again. They must owe Enterprise or somebody a ton of money for fucking up all these rental cars with the monster truck. So, nothing too special said by Steiner or Tank here. Obviously, just again trying to goad Goldberg back into coming back and taking on Tank. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. It's kind of getting tedious a little bit. I'm not super pumped for like a Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner match, but I assume we'll probably see that happen eventually. Chronic getting involved is kind of random. Obviously, I think it was just kind of a vehicle for Douglas and Bagwell to get the belts back. But yeah, watching Scott and Chronic whoop up on some New Blood security was pretty fun. So, but the rest of the segment's just kind of, hopefully Goldberg comes back soon so we can kind of get Tank out of the way. And we'll see what they do with Rick Steiner going forward.
Yeah, I guess that gives them something. I mean, the last we saw Rick was with the Varsity Club, but like you said, I am tired of Tank calling out Goldberg. Something needs to happen. Yeah, it's just
more than monster trucks.
But, and I'm tired of the fucking monster truck. Yes, whoever came up with that idea needs to be shot into a fucking cannon. So we have a commercial break. When we come back, we see David and Daphne in New York. David tells Daphne that he wants to marry her and he proposes, and Russo's like, "That's your funeral, bro." So David went from saying he's never seen a naked girl before, which, Logan, I forgot, David the year before was seduced by Tori with Very the true. NWO Flair feud. He definitely saw her naked. They were like in hotel rooms. So like we're supposed to believe that Yeah, and like Kimberly was also trying to fuck him. So it's like, what are we doing here? Just dumb. But like, we'll see what happens if they get married. I think it leads to something with Stacy, with Miss Keebler. I mean, Miss Hancock. We'll have to see. But we still got our main event, guys. We got an ambulance match with 5 minutes left. It's Mike Awesome versus Sting in an ambulance match. We see highlights of Awesome throwing Canyon off the cage and then destroying DDP on Monday. The match doesn't start until less than 4 minutes left, guys. So this is a fucking sprint of a sprint in a fucking gimmick match. Mike attacks Sting as soon as he gets in the ring. Mike hits Sting with a splash in the corner, and then he pulls out a table, puts it in the aisleway. While he's holding said table, Sting drop kicks the table into Awesome. They stay fighting in the aisleway. It was sick. And then like they put the table like up against like the ring ropes. And Sting back body drops Awesome through the table. They're punching each other as they battle towards the aisleway. They try to throw the other onto the ambulance as it's like perched off of the entrance ramp. And then Sting's able to throw Mike into the ambulance, and then somehow they work their way up to the top of the ambulance. Mike Awesome almost kills Sting with a power bomb because he almost drops him. So when he does it again, Sting reverses it and hits the Scorpion Death Drop on top of the ambulance. So Mike Awesome is down top of the ambulance. They're like, Sting has to open up the door and throw Mike Awesome in. When Sting drops down, he opens up the door. Of course, Vampiro is there. He sprays the blood into Sting's face. Then he throws Sting into the ambulance, and Mike Awesome wins as the ambulance takes off with Sting in there and Awesome on top of the car. What a crazy fucking end of this match, Logan. Like, they were pressed for time. They probably should have just canceled the ambulance match. I don't know. Canceled a couple other things. Like, did the Steiner and Chronic thing have to happen? Like, but less than 4 minute fucking ambulance match, Logan. Vince Russo, everyone. Vince fucking Russo.
Yeah, this is as Russo-rific as Russo-rific gets. Yeah, you kind of called out the drop kick of the table. I thought that was very comical, a hilarious visual, and absolutely awesome spot. The backdrop on the ramp was sick. Obviously, it goes through the table as well. But just any spot on the ramp, I can't imagine that ramp is very forgiving. I feel like it's pretty brutal to take a bump on that. We get like you kind of said, Sting hits the death drop on the top of the ambulance. Awesome is just kind of left there. They drive the ambulance out with him on top. So I assume he eventually hops off. But Vampiro, like you said, kind of emerges and missed Sting and kind of knocks him out. And Awesome wins without pretty much doing anything outside of the first few seconds of the match. But like you said, it was only like 4 minutes, so it didn't get a ton of time to get any thing going, really. But yeah, ridiculous to throw a ambulance match here at the end of the show and give it so little time. But they did do some pretty brutal and kind of memorable spots for the time that they were given. So there's that, I guess.
Yeah, you can tell those boys were hustling, Logan. Like, it was just like, oh shit, all right, let's rock and roll.
We gotta
So,
get
let's get to it. Yeah, like, what's crazy is the show is taped, Logan. They tape it on Tuesdays. It's on Wednesdays. They could have had a long ass match. Like, it's not like Nitro, like, which is live. It's asinine. But that brings us to an end of another episode of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? Before we get out of here, what was most absurd, Logan? I have Goldberg monster truck and 4 minute ambulance match.
The blood segment.
Yes.
Or the blood mishap, right. I guess.
Yeah, that is the correct. For what was good, I got Crowbar versus Chris and the David Flair New York segments.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. I don't think I can add too much more. I don't think anything else really blew me away.
For what was bad, Filthy Animals just being destroyed.
Yeah, Kidman burial.
Yeah. Being buried. But we had 8 matches tonight, guys. 1 clean finish, 7 non-clean or non-finishes, 0 pole matches, 5 pole matches total. We had 4 gimmick matches. That brings us up to 125 gimmick matches. Zero guitar shots as Jeff Jarrett.
Did you count every gimmick match within the one Kidman and Horace match?
No, because I would have had to have like it would have been like 8 gimmick matches because it turned into so many. So I just kept it at the one with the gimmick match of like, if he loses, he's fired. I did think about it, guys, but I'm like, I can't. That's just insane. It's just insane. But it brings us up to 125 gimmick matches. We had 0 guitar shots tonight. The world champ wasn't even on the show. He was barely even mentioned. He seems like they don't really know what they're doing because it was supposed to be Ric Flair versus Jeff Jarrett at Great American Bash. That doesn't appear to be the case. We'll have to see what happens on Monday Night Nitro, the next episode. But yeah, we had 30 different things happen tonight. We're still at 47 world title change, 47 times titles have changed hands. I definitely think we are smarter than Vince Russo's WCW tonight, Logan.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think we probably could have at least booked some of these new blood guys a little stronger in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I don't think we're lacking in wrestling booking to this point behind old Vinny Roo. I think we were still ahead of him for sure.
Oh, yes, by a long shot. But that brings us then to another episode of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? For Scott Shiflett, he's Logan Crosland. We'll see you in 2 weeks for my birthday Nitro.
Whoop, whoop.